Hey guys, I was on the Barkhadat show, Bottom Line, and today's as a panelist, and today's topic was Supreme Court Collegium. So I thought I'll just make my views also in this video. A couple of things that we need to understand is we have to zoom out and first ask why is this being debated again? Because this Supreme Court Collegium, to reject the Collegium issue, the Modi government, right when they came to the power in 2014, they came up with the National Judicial Appointment Commission, NJAC, and they passed that bill and they ended the Supreme Court Collegium system. And then within few months, when the matter went to Supreme Court dismissed the government's move. Supreme Court declared government's NJAC as unconstitutional, and the appointment of the judges remains in control of Supreme Court's Collegium. The Supreme Court Collegium is consisting of the Supreme Court Chief Justice and I guess 3 or 4 other senior most judges. This is also in line with the Constitution of India, which says that the Supreme Court judges and High Court judges will be appointed by the President of India in consultation with Supreme Court Chief Justice and I guess senior most judges. I'm not very sure of what exactly is the legal provision is, and Mr. Sanjay Hegde was talking about the legal provisions in the show today. I'm just going to share my view, which is that why is Kiren Rijiju saying that people do not have trust in the Collegium system? I mean, how does he know? This government does not even do any public engagement. They एक बार उनको vote मिल जाता है, फिर for the rest 5 years they keep doing whatever they want to do. They don't have any mechanism to ever find out what the people are saying and asking, and they don't care. So how does he know? He's projecting his own ideas, RSS, BJP ideas on people. Whether people trust the Collegium system or not, we don't know. The other thing is that it is being debated at the same time by the BJP RSS and a certain group of anti-caste activists, mostly on Twitter, social media page. So now this timing is very interesting. If you speak to the BJP leader, one of the argument they will always say is that, social injustice बहुत हो गया है Collegium system में, people from certain caste are not getting appointments, and it's casteist. Supreme Court has been alleged to be casteist, and the Dalit Bahujans are not getting opportunities. Now, there is no denying that there is a lack of opportunities. There is caste-based discrimination, and in the higher judiciary as well as in any other field, from films to media to professionals, doctors, engineers, there is a gap. There is a lack of representation from the Dalit Bahujan community. There is no denying that. But that debate cannot be reduced to the last name basis. You cannot simply look at people's last name and say, how many of this caste and how many of that caste, and the entire debate cannot be so linear and so simplistic, number one. Number two is that the solution to more representation is not to give more power to government. We already know what the government is doing when it has the control of appointing. What is happening to all the independent bodies in the country? The Election Commission, the Information Commission, the ED, IT, CBI. How are the head of these bodies elected, and where is the transparency in that? And we know that how a particular ideologically influenced people are getting appointed in this high post. And Indian Cultural Association, these are all constitutional body. Various commission, minority commission, election, women's commission. So what happens when these commissions are formed? There is no transparency, and the government will put in their ideologically convenient people into these places. We don't want to take that risk. We cannot have the government have more control in the judiciary. We need a society where the government have less and less control in things. That's always better. So a collegium system is like a peer-reviewed system, and a peer-reviewed system is always like the peers will be able to best judge how each other is performing in a given field. Of course, it does leave that gap open of favoritism. But you have to see that the filtering process, the pool is not like out of these many people kisi ko bhi raha chalta from the street you're making Supreme Court judges or High Court judges. No, the first round of these people who are entering the profession, judiciary, is already going through a process of they have their quotas, they have the representation a little bit, so they are already entering the profession. They're going to a law college, they're going to a they're sitting in judicial service exam, they're becoming judges of lower courts, and then from there, when it comes to appointment of higher court and Supreme Court, that the collegium system comes into play. It's not like कि पान बीड़ी के दुकान वाले को जज बना रहे हैं just because किसी का लड़का है या nephew है. So that's one of the thing. And the other thing is that we cannot allow the government to have more control. Doesn't matter which government, but particularly the RSS BJP government. Why? Because if you allow a particular ideological cult to influence people's mind or infiltrate institutional bodies, then you don't really need to do things like paying somebody something to get a favorable action. Actions will happen according to your ideology, because you've already put someone who is already ideologically influenced. And once ideologically influenced people take up a certain position, they take certain decisions because of their own personal ideology. They've owned that government's ideology as their own ideology, and now they are personally driven to give a biased opinion. The government have to do anything. The RSS doesn't have to do anything. So tomorrow, if we have too many judges from the same ideological, which is the dominant ideology of the country, the RSS BJP ideology, if we have judges from the same ideology, I'm not even saying that these judges are going to be corrupt, because corruption is what? Somebody pays me something and I want to give a judgment in favor of that person because they paid me something. They are offering me a plush post. They are offering me something. But that's corruption. What is the corruption of the mind? What is the corruption of the soul? The corruption of the soul is when you have allowed a particular ideology to drive you rather than the letter of the law or the letter of the constitution. And that is the fear. That is the fear with this particular government. And the last thing that I want to say is also that it's only in this government that in the last few years we have seen again and again the government is stalling the recommendation given by the Supreme Court Collegium of certain judges from elevation, from appointment, from seniority, from transfer, when or what do you call that, like when you elevate from Supreme Court to from High Court to Supreme Court. Again and again we are seeing that the government is stalling those judges' career and elevation, etc., whom they find ideologically problematic, or who has put certain BJP leader on the tight spot. Recent example is, I forgot, Justice Muralidharan, I forgot the name of the justice. He was the one who pulled up the Delhi police because they did not file an FIR in the Anurag Thakur Goli Maro case, and then the next day that judge was transferred, and now the government is sitting over his decision. This government time and again has been seen that it dissects these collegiums, as the collegium is supposed recommending 5 judges' name for elevation to the Supreme Court, and the government does what? They'll probably allow 3 names and they will just simply sit over these last 2 names. Why? Because seemingly these are ideologically problematic people. They are people who have given judgments against the government, or they have put the government in a tight spot, and it seems very obvious to us that the government is not happy with that judge. It's not a pliant judge, and that's why the government is stalling their appointment. Now this is what the government is already doing today. Now if we give more power to the government in judges' appointment, what are we going to expect? What has happened to the independent bodies of this country already? And what risk are we taking? Therefore, we cannot allow the Supreme Court Collegium to perish. The Collegium is still the best system. Yes, there are still scope for more transparency. There is still scope for better representation from various social groups, backward castes, class, women. a gay judge. There is a you'll see the Barkhadat show and you'll hear about the openly gay judge, and his appointment is also, the government is stalling him also. So those were my views on the Supreme Court Collegium issue, and I also said these things in the Barkhadat show bottom line, and I hope you would like that show as well as my opinion. Thank you so much for watching.